Now that you have blown through all that advanced material, what's next? Where do you go? Well, you've got to use it or lose it.
Let's talk about it.
What's up, guys, and welcome back to WaiGuo Friends English. If you are jumping in on this video, this is actually our final part 3 of our 3-step process in order to get to fluency. And part 2 was all about adding that advanced material into your language learning. So you've gone past the beginner, you've gone past the intermediate, you've even gone past the advanced stuff, and now the question is, where do you go?
Integrated skills are the name of the game in step 5. Okay, this is where you are somewhere in advanced, high advanced, you're getting really close to fluent. So in the British system, maybe you are C2 at this point. But what you are looking for is anything that you can integrate. You're using multiple skills, you're doing real life things. You're taking notes while listening or reading to something, you're speaking a response or writing a response with that, but you're doing it in multiple levels. You're not just doing it with one piece of content. You're taking multiple pieces of content on the same topic from multiple different sources by different mediums, and then you're synthesizing that information in English as efficiently as you can and putting it together in one spoken or written response. So essentially it's kind of like university, where you do research, you figure out what this guy says, this guy says, this guy says, and you're putting it together into one piece, one presentation or one written piece.
A large part of this is being able to use non-ESL content. Even though that stuff can be very comfortable when trying to practice that English, you need to go beyond comfortable and continue to stretch yourself by only using native resources. It's like if you were writing a book review and the only book reviews you wrote were pro or towards or in support of this one argument, then your argument, your own argument, would be lacking. So what you need to do is you need to go to the other side and actually read the support documents from their perspective so that you can then use both sides and come down to your own point to say, hey, I know what they say, I know what he says. This is my belief on this issue.
What you're doing here is you are basically learning to see arguments. You're learning to understand the perspective behind the argument or behind the statement or behind the story, whatever it is. You're learning to recognize, to identify and recognize what is not seen or directly said, because that's a step toward fluency. So in order to do that, though, you've got to be working with native material. You've got to be looking at multiple layers. There's so many things that you've got to really take into consideration in order to be able to do this. And that's why we're putting this at step 5. You've got to be using it. You've got to be using natural material. You've got to be looking deeper than just what the words say on the surface. And that's why we're talking about looking at multiple angles and ideas on the same topic.
Yeah, because different mediums, whether you're listening to a podcast or you're reading an article or you are listening to two people actually have a debate, these different mediums, they show and they give off different nuances that then you can then use in your own language. If you are purely a bookworm, then the only fluent thing that you will be able to do is to read and write, which is great. But normal life dictates that we have to do more than just read and write fluently. We have to be able to go to a conference and present our findings on the things that we just wrote about. We have to talk to our colleagues about what they think about what we just wrote about. You have to integrate those skills all at the same time.
This is challenging. Let's give you something tangible where you can do this. Take a topic. The more generic the topic that you choose, the more difficult it will get to do this. Okay, so if you say online shopping, there's a lot of different ways you could go about this, but the odds of you finding very clear-cut arguments or stances on online shopping is not as easy to find. If you are an advanced learner, you're a very busy adult who's doing life and juggling and stuff, you're going to be doing a lot of work trying to find solid resources with clear arguments to compare. One of the things that you could do is something a lot more niched down, something that's much more controversial, something that people like to make black and white. So for example, you could take political stances in the United States, Republicans and Democrats, and it doesn't have to be wild, it doesn't have to be crazy. It could be something as simple as, do you agree or disagree with school uniforms? That's a great topic to try to flesh out some different ideas on. The trick is you would have to find stuff to learn about school uniforms. You're gonna have to find some published articles or some blog posts on ideas and stances about school uniforms. So you see what I mean? Don't go too general, because it will be very difficult to find clear debates or stances on, to listen and read to in order to inform your own and to try to figure out, deconstruct an argument, whatever it is. This sounds really hard. What we're saying is you need to be approaching your studies at this point in a somewhat structured way so that you are regularly making yourself take one thing and dive deep into what's going on in the people that are debating on this topic. You want to be giving yourself something to work with that goes beyond, oh, do you like cats or dogs? You can do that, but it's very general, and that's something that's more of an intermediate topic or a beginner topic than it is for a high advanced level trying to reach fluency. So take something difficult from real life, from things that you see in the news or something that you see in media or something that you know Americans debate all the time, and then dig deep.
You will learn about culture, which is great. You will also learn about how to express yourself in those sorts of contexts. Hopefully, if you were doing your own research, you will actually be able to practice being able to speak and listen while you uncover these topics. Find a person who's a strong advocate of that position and actually interview them. Doing all of these things lets you learn about the people and the language that you are trying to communicate in, and doing so pushes you towards fluency like nothing else.
While you're doing this, you're also going to be working on trying to produce different types of mediums for different contexts. So you're going to be working on forming your opinion and presenting it in a presentation style, in an essay style, in like a book review style, in summaries, reports, speeches, debates, persuasive writing, even something as easy as emails. You're going to be trying to work on learning how to express your opinion and how to do so appropriately in different formats, in different styles, different formalities, different contexts with different people. And part of that is being able to read people or read the room or whatever it is in order to present your opinions in a certain way. Now, we're talking about very formal things, formal structures. It doesn't have to be. It's easier to do this in a classroom setting where you're kind of forced to do this and it's already set up for you, but it doesn't have to be. Okay, this is something you can do on your own. It's just you need to find somebody to grade you and evaluate you honestly.
So if that's step 5, what's the final step here? What is the last step in this journey to fluency? And the last step is going to sound maybe a bit anticlimactic for some of you. That's because it's refined those skills. So as you do this, as you work on those presentations, as you work on those debate topics, as you work on interviewing people and reading good literature and all this stuff that's going on, what you're doing is you're touching base with a lot of different vocabulary sets. So far in the beginner, intermediate, even low advanced, the job that you're trying to do is just working on communicating. How do I communicate with day-to-day life? How do I talk to a package delivery guy? How do I file and get a passport, or how do I get a green card, blah, 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 all that stuff. In this step, you're going to be touching base into some native material that ESL speakers don't normally ever get to. That's because it's for native speakers. And so these are vocabulary sets that are specifically following around a specific kind of jargon or a specific skill set or a specific job occupation. And you're going to be kind of breaking into these niches, these groups that have their own language. So it's not just English, it's pilot's English. It's not just English, it's medical English.
Whatever you need.
Whatever you need. You start touching base into all these areas and you start to understand that there are these pockets of communities inside of English that you can then kind of get some repetition and exposure to, that you can then have more fluency in those areas. So if you're a software programmer and you start breaking into these things that software programmers all say, like
CSS, JavaScript, and PHP, all of the things.
Yeah, then you're going to start to be more fluent when talking to other software engineers. The same thing for other job occupations. But the real question is how do you do this? How do you continue to expand that vocabulary? How do you continue to break into these niches and kind of get more fluency in those specific areas? Well, we got a few ideas for you.
One of the things that you need to be doing is you need to take a textbook or a book from that niche, from the area that you need to know this deeper English in. And you need to start reading the same content that your coworkers are reading. You need to start reading the same content that other people are and listening to it as well. Anything that you can find that will make you better at your job or better at the realm or in the context that you want to be in. So if it's baseball, then get into baseball podcasts, get into those things. But you need to be writing down the terms that you don't recognize right away. Get into them, take the time to go and look them up. And not only that, don't just look them up in the dictionary, look them up on a thesaurus as well. Learn the synonyms and make flashcards, do recordings, whatever it takes. Talk about some of those words that are still more difficult, that are just like, I don't see why it's used that way here. I don't get it. Then you need to talk to a native speaker and ask, okay, why? what is deadhead and why is it used here? Like, I understand this definition, but in this context, it seems kind of strange. This is pilot jargon somewhere else. In another context, it surprises me. What does it mean here? Is it the same thing? Why did they use this instead of something else? More suitable to their context. Like, what's going on here? There's a lot of ways that we tend to break English that is just not in the dictionary. There's a lot of ways that we misuse words or misuse grammar, break grammar, that is not written down anywhere. English ebbs and flows because it's a living language and is always evolving. So one of the things that you need to do, and one of the best resources you can have, is a native speaker that you can just talk to and ask these questions of. If you don't have that, get a book, go through and just read something that's difficult. It's meant for native speakers. It's a difficult book to read, but work through it slowly, easily. If you do a page at a time, it is okay. But go through, circle those words and look them up, find their synonyms, and work to understand those words. Try to spot them around. You might have to go through and speak through the words, record yourself talking about these words and their synonyms and what they mean, and give yourself example sentences to work with. Do what you need to do, and it's going to be slow and it's going to be difficult, but that's okay. The point is, if you're taking a handful of words every week, just like this, coming from a context that you want to be fluent in, you'll be working more and more toward English fluency.
That was all talking about vocabulary building, but you also need to be able to do some reading comprehensions. You need to be able to wrestle with the information itself.
Yes.
The best way to do that, or the most traditional way to do that, is a book review. But when you do a book review, don't just leave it at, this is what the book said. That is not a good way to do a book review. The best way to do a book review is to ask comprehension questions that you can then answer yourself. So for example, if you are reading a fiction book, you can ask questions like, what is this book about and who is it by? You could also ask questions like, who is the main character? What's the setting? What happens in the book? Or what's the plot line? What's the theme of the book? Is the author trying to persuade us in something, or to do something, or to teach something? Another thing is just, did you like this story? What was the greatest parts about it? What were the least great parts about it? What was impactful? What was not impactful?
For nonfiction, what is the book about and who is it by? To whom is the author writing and why? And what is his persuasion? What is his argument? What is the author's point of view? Explain it in detail. What do you think about the author's point and why do you think you believe that? Are there any other suggestions or ideas that the author could have added or that they missed? Okay, so this is one of those things where you are really thinking critically at this point. You're thinking about, okay, if I wrote this book, how would I do it? And what would I fill in? What are some big missing holes here? Or what are some things that could be added to make the argument stronger? Another one that you should ask, and you should always ask, is the application question. What are some things that I've learned in this book that are useful to apply to my life?
Once you have written this book review, once you have wrestled with all these questions, what we want you to do is to go back over it, to go over it again, like we've said in an earlier step, that you can't just do the work and then just let it go. That is a waste of so much time. Go back over it, rehash it, go over it again and see if you can find any mistakes. See if that's the best way you can say it. See if that's the most impactful way you can say it. And then when you have it all squared away, give it to a native speaker. Give it to a native speaker that has good writing and have them take a look at it and see what they think. Was it impactful to them? Did you convince them? How do they feel about the way you worded this or that? English teacher is the best answer to this because we have been working with people just like you guys as they try to promote written English fluency. Yeah. But if anything else, a well-read native English speaker can be able to look at that book review that you wrote, that comprehension that you wrote, and be able to say, that was really impactful. How you said that, how you structured that was really well done.
Now, can you give it to ChatGPT or Grammarly or some other grammar grading program? Yes, yes you can. But guys, let me tell you this. I've done editing for years. Those programs are not correct. Not all the time. Actually, they make a lot of mistakes. They also don't know how to break grammar on purpose. They can do it sometimes to some degree, but they can't match it to the context, and they cannot possibly capture what it is, the essence of what your opinion is, or what it is that you want to say. They just can't do that. They're not human. Yes, you can use those to help you with some things, but something that honestly has been graded by or comes out of Grammarly or ChatGPT or something of that nature sounds like it came from Grammarly or ChatGPT. It's not as good as having a human being evaluate your work. And besides that, you're not going to get great feedback on it either. So if you want to be taking actionable steps toward English fluency, you need to be doing the work. Get into the dirt and do the work. There's no way around it. And if you're really striving for fluency, there's not a shortcut. It takes a lot of work, it takes a lot of time, and it takes consistency and determination.
This is the last step to fluency. You continue to produce, you continue to intake and listen and practice and expand and grow into different niches, all for the purpose of being more comfortable, more fluid, more fluent in your responses as you seek to communicate that meaning. It's not just about getting a translator and getting people to understand the words written on a page. It's being able to put pen to paper or speaking in front of people and having them understand your meaning and understand the impact that happens when you speak or when you write.
If you are one of those people, you're determined to get to fluency, but you don't have the time to put together your own curriculum, to go out and find your own things in order to do it, or you just want the extra accountability, look into Fluency Fast Track. There are lots of English programs out there, and every program has its unique strengths and weaknesses. For us, we are consistently writing and adding to our program, and we meet with our students for over 10 hours every month in order to be able to make room for those live conversations and to discuss deep things, difficult things, to get those questions in. You have email support, and it's a great community. They're just fantastic. So if you are one of those people that just are determined to get to fluency and you need a cost-effective way to get there, Fluency Fast Track is there, and it's got spots open right now.
We purposefully run it to where there is an exclusive number of seats because we as English teachers, we know that we cannot do a great job with hundreds and hundreds of students. It is us, it is our business. We two at the helm. We two are the teachers there. We two are the ones that would be meeting with you and grading all the work because we know that we, as human being teachers, are the most qualified people to help get you to fluency. Well, you can check out the link below where you can check out more about Fluency Fast Track. We would love to see you there. We have so much fun with our students every single week as we meet with them, and we are so happy that you are here on YouTube. But if you want to get more practice and get real deep into gaining fluency, especially for this year, we strongly urge you to check out the link below as we all strive to push forward towards fluency.
All right, guys. Thank you so much for watching. That's it for us today. We'll catch you in the next one.
Bye.